17 and a half. Well, could be 18, depending on how you count the dwarf woman. The dwarf woman. You were trying to figure out whether to count her as a full person. I think you oughta. The people hanging from the tree. 18 of them. Well, last I counted, anyway. Name's Adair. Though to the people around here, might as well be 19. Don't think I'd put you much higher than 22, 23 tops. You look like the sort that likes to get involved. Well, I was smoking over here, saw you staring at her. Twice I refilled my pipe. You never so much as blinked. Your mouth was so slack I took you for a Radric at first. Careful, friend. Best not use that word round here. Could be any number of Radric bootlickers within earshot. Ciphers, animancers, watchers. Same thing in the eyes of folks around here, Radric especially. They come through these parts all the time with their cures, preying on the desperate. None of them are who they claim to be. Of course, seeing you with that funny look, I'd be halfway inclined to believe you were having some kind of communion with that dwarf. Either case, maybe I'm not 19 after all. No offense. The town's had it in for me for a long time now. Only fellow who ever stuck up for me, well, he's number 18 up there. My headman on the farm. Used to be my captain during the war. We blew him up. Picked the wrong god. That's what it comes down to. Used to be a lot of Aethys worshippers in Gilded Vale. That mess of rocks over there, that was a temple to him, to give you some idea. Then one day, somebody named Widewind shows up on Deerwood's doorstep. Says he's the living flesh of Aethys. Got an army with him. Suddenly, Aethys isn't so popular in these parts. My brother Wodan and me, neither of us believed it. No way was that Aethys. He enlisted, then I did too. But, he didn't make it back. After the war, people took to punishing Aethys worshippers, accusing them of treason. Got real ugly, especially after the legacy started. Folks needed someone to blame. I was safe because I fought, but then this rumor starts that my brother, that he was on the wrong side. And I wasn't so safe anymore. Until my headman stepped in and said they'd have to hang him to get to me. Seems that's no longer a concern. Of course, the townies don't do the hanging these days, but when Radric's men come, they got no problem doing the pointing. Seem to remember hearing something about that years ago. He tamed that place. People would seek him out for all kinds of things. Troubles of the soul, questions for the departed. Of course, that was back when you didn't have to say watcher with a hush on your breath. A man such as that, there'd be things I'd want to ask him. Don't know why I never thought of it before. Not sure how I feel about setting out with a stranger, and a strange one at that. But, truth be told, you might be the only one in town who wouldn't feel some relief seeing me swing from that tree. All right, then. Guess I'll do some sightseeing. Long as you're not the one picking the sights. That old watcher. I don't know what I expected, but it sure wasn't that. Nah, well, it's kinda embarrassing now. I just got a dumb idea in my head is all. Don't know why I thought it'd work. It's funny. That's probably the first thing I got my hopes up for in, I don't know, years. At least I got that out of it. All right. Guess fair is fair, and you did bring me to see him. Those rumors back in Gilded Vale about my brother, Wodan, about how he'd turned against us and fought for Wodan, been on my mind for some time now. The thing about Wodan was, he always knew what was right, and that's what he'd do. One day he set out to fight for Deerwood against a man claiming to be our god. So I knew that's what I had to do too. It was right. But hearing claims that he died fighting for Rey Ceres, that got me worried. Not that he'd chosen the wrong side, but that I had. Didn't seem right what Wodan had in store, but if he really was Aethys, I thought, maybe this old Watcher would know how my brother died, so I could see if it was true. Like he could, I don't know, read it in my soul or something. Use our connection. Told you it was dumb. Of course, I knew the truth deep down. The Watcher's not psychic. I think I just had this idea, and the idea made me feel a certain way, and I didn't want to lose that. You've done a lot for me already, but if you could see fit to pay that archive a visit with me, well, you know. Knowing my luck, the records clerk will go crazy and try to kill me. I'd feel better with you in there with me. Hey! Hey! You awake? Good. You were kind of thrashing around, eyes rolled back in your head. You were shaking. I'm trying to snap you out of it for a long time now. Thought I was gonna have to get a bucket of cold water. You don't seem like you get much rest at night. You got those dark circles under your eyes. Well, it's the Watcher thing, then. I'm sure it just takes some time to adjust is all. I'll try to let it sort itself out. But you'd better wake up faster next time. Trust me, you don't want that bucket of cold water.
Good day, stranger.
Wodan Talej died 18 Majavernho 2808. Third Battle of Cleaban Relog. Blazing Glanfather names, I swear. Rey Ceres? I'll be the effigy. He fought for Rey Ceres. Why'd he fight for Rey Ceres? We gotta go there. That battlefield. Clea... the one I said. I don't know how else I'm gonna make sense of all this. I gotta see what he saw. And who knows, maybe his spirit'll even be there and you can have one of your weird talks with him. I mean, worth trying, right? I appreciate that. I wish I could say you won't regret it, but you certainly might.
These ruins are claimed, friend. On your way.
No need to get riled, boys. We're just passing by.
Look at his talisman, Pag. Eothasian.
How about that? A godless sack of shit. We got a blazing corpse worshiper on our hands.
Actually, they never found the body.
Only reason for the legacy is because the Duke doesn't got the guts to see you all slaughtered. The gods want you dead. Me and Pag, though, we done our part during the purges, didn't we, Pag?
Seamstresses?
Make your cracks now. Got no god or homeland to avenge you. By Magrin, this'll be short work. Doesn't matter who it was for anyway. Country's better for the purges. Maybe we start a new purge right here.
I've seen these before. They top the standards of Raid Saris. Or did when Wodan was alive. Well, it's something. Just not sure what it gets me. Anything? Looked like you were working real hard there. What'd he talk about with Wodan? I figured that. Wodan and me had heard enough stories from his uprising to know it wasn't just some tall tale. Doesn't mean he was Aethys. It could have been some wizard's trick. It's what they talked about that's important. What'd they say? That's not funny. Come on. That metal sun, my brother touched it. You saw where he went. Now what'd he talk about with Wodan? Why'd my brother fight for Raid Saris? I guess that's it. I don't think we will. What will we do? Look for more war relics? We were lucky to find this one. The soldiers that fought with him are long dead. The battle was a massacre. Whatever Aethys knows, he's not talking to anyone. Hope I didn't seem ungrateful back there on the battlefield. And you went out of your way. Got real close. Didn't expect that. You know, for a second, I thought I was gonna finally see some answers. Foolish, of course. And why should I get answers? There's a world of Aethasians out there, don't know if their god's been blown up. Still, man can't help looking back. Guess you'd know that well as anyone. I might have turned my back on my god when he needed me. That's all I'll ever know. His actions didn't seem righteous enough for a god. That's why me and Wodan had Widewind figured for a pretender. It didn't occur to me that my god might actually mean to do harm to his own. Something to think about, I guess. What's on your mind? Oh, other than the war, I never strayed too far from where you found me. Farming, mostly. I was never much for cities, never learned a trade. In my younger days, I thought I was going to go preach the word of Aethys, just in our temple there. My parents encouraged it. I made so much trouble for them growing up, they used to say it'd be best if I got in good with the God of Redemption. Of course, us blowing him up probably didn't help my chances there. But if anybody'd forgive you for blowing him up, it'd be Aethys. They, they did. It was strange timing, because we just won the war. They celebrated when I came home. There was music and dancing. Trumbull used half his grain making this big honey cake. I still dream about that cake. Like having the best lover of your life, but only for one night. And they were all sorry to hear about my brother. Took a while for word of the purges to reach us. Aethasians being murdered in the streets. Cold morn and the like. No way would they let something like that happen in Gilded Vale. That's what they all said. But the weeks went by and the purges spread. Pretty soon they weren't so sure my brother fought for Deerwood. And they weren't so sure I did. Caught me by surprise after all the celebrating. Should have seen it coming after the tailor said he was going to fit me for some new clothes, but then all he wanted was my neck measurement. Nah, not that last part. But you had to think about it. Says a lot about the place I've been calling home all these years. Well, I'm sure my parents are still wondering the same thing. The Aethasian purges were like this madness had come over the town, like a disease. Seems like when you see something like that, your instinct is to wait for it to pass, even when you know it probably won't. The family whose farm I worked on, they had a little Hollowborn girl. And they heard the Animancers had this cure, the Salvation it was called. They went running. This Salvation, they were putting animal souls in children. You might have heard about it, giving them enough personality to care for themselves. Well, you can guess how that turned out. Matter of time, the children broke down, became wild things, monsters. Anyway, these farmers put the family dog's soul in their little girl. For a while, the girl, she's making eye contact, she's feeding herself, albeit in a kind of messy way. Then one day she snaps. They found her gnawing on her brother's bones. Had to chain her up, put her in a cow pen. Well, the mother, she wouldn't have anything to do with the girl after that. But the father, he'd visit every day, feed her chickens, toss water on her once in a while to get the dirt off. Most of the village, they'd whisper about him. Poor man, they'd say, sick with grief. He was just waiting for his daughter to look up one day and recognize her papa. He was waiting for her to get better. Didn't understand that at the time, of course, but these days I think about him a lot. Wodan was, about everything you'd want your firstborn son to be. Dutiful, honest, put thought into everything he did. A real pain in my ass. Made me look bad about every way he could. It wasn't something he tried to do, but of course that just makes it worse. Not that he didn't get into trouble himself. He was just better about feeling guilty after. We used to have this farmer near us, Hereward. Couldn't stop talking about how well he cared for his chickens, how their feathers were the whitest in town. Convinced the butcher to pay him double what the other farmers got. Me and Wodan got tired of hearing it. I was maybe 11, 12 at the time. We borrowed about 6 different dyes from the dyer one night. Dyed Hereward's chickens every color but white. Next morning, the butcher comes knocking asking for 6 of his whitest chickens. We were feeling great, up until Hereward saw what we'd done. He just got on his knees and cried right there, all those colorful chickens around him not knowing what to make of it. I thought it served him right, but I could tell Wodan had other thoughts. Sure enough, the next day, every one of those chickens had been scrubbed down. They weren't white, mind you, but Wodan sure tried. Never said a word to me about it, but I knew. That was Wodan. My parents, they always let us be who we were. Never told me to be more like him or anything like that. Which was good, because I was never gonna. What's on your mind? It makes two of us. If you're looking to find religion, maybe you want to start with a god that hasn't been burned to dust, but I won't stop you. Aethys, he was a young man with a silver crown. Carried a candle around with him. Sounds like I'm giving a bad eulogy here. In my way. I don't suppose he expects me to show up at his temple these days. Not much left to do for him other than keep his memory alive and keep hoping that he's just been playing a joke on all of us these past 15 years. Raised that way. My family's been Aethasian going way back. Suppose it wasn't much of a choice at first. Don't know for sure why my family started worshipping him. Probably because of Gon looking after folks like us. Mm-mm. There was something I genuinely liked about Aethys. Always. Like he understood people better than the other gods. Knew all our flaws and weaknesses and accepted us for that. Folks are at their worst when they're afraid. A god like Aethys, he made you realize there was nothing to fear. Made you a better person. Of course, he goes away for a few years, and look what happens. Was his actions. I mean, not when he started his rebellion, and not even when he took over Rhaed Saris. It was when he sent his armies into Deerwood. You sure you don't want to talk about something more pleasant? Like the War of Black Trees or the Legacy or something? Hey! Hey! You gotta stop it with that. I just about punched you to snap you out of it. You were saying things, but they weren't any words I ever heard. You were shaking so hard I thought you'd crack your spine. Well, it's nice to feel needed. I'd have woke you sooner, but I thought it'd be nice for you to be able to close your eyes a bit. Folks don't last long without sleep. You're twitchy these days. Reminds me of Meyerwald more than I'd like. Anything I can do, you just let me know. We're close on this one. Hang on a little longer. We'll get you fixed up. Well, doesn't that just beat all? Here I was, wondering all this time whether all these terrible things were people's fault or the gods. Turns out they might be the same thing. Wonder how things would have gone different 15 years ago if the raid Sarens had been told their god was made in some forge or kiln someplace. Would we still have gone to war? I could see the rebellion still happening, but I don't know that they would have invaded. I don't know. When Wodan left for war, we, had a fight. As brothers will. About him going off to war. He was set on it. But my parents warned him. They said you get a new country with every trip across the border, but your god, you only get the one. Now, me, I didn't know who was right. All I knew was I didn't want him to go. It's the same for families as it is for gods. You only get the one. I said every vicious thing I could think of, trying to change his mind. He brushed it off. Just got me madder, of course, him being so calm. He said I should come with him, but he'd understand if I didn't want to. I told him he'd better be able to face his god one day and answer for what he'd done. He said he'd keep that in mind. And then he was gone. By the time I'd cooled off, months had passed. One morning it dawns on me that my brother always knew better than me. If he was so sure of what he was doing, then I should be there with him. I packed my things and was on the road that same morning. Of course, what I didn't know then was he'd already changed his mind. By that time, he was dead on that field. Crossed my mind. You live in a place like Gilded Vale, you don't have a whole lot else to do other than think about things you don't want to think about. I hope that wasn't it. I hope he went there because it's what he thought was right. But it seems I'm not meant to know. If I'd have left with him, we'd both be dead, so I don't know why I bother thinking about it. I found my own way in the end, and it wasn't my brother's and it wasn't my god's. I don't know if it was right. But I couldn't abide what Wodan was doing to his own, god or not. I don't regret it. Whether Wodan was Eothas, well, it hardly seems to matter after what we just heard. And all these questions I've been trying to figure out. I think I just miss my brother. Still one more mess we gotta straighten out. Come on, then. I still owe you one. Theos, he had hold of your soul from a long time back, seems like. You get what you needed from him? Well, those can be hard to come by, but maybe that's best. Forces you to find your own footing. You'll be feeling better soon, then. Good. That's real good. You got it figured out what you're going to do about all that? Got a lot of people out there thinking they've been abandoned by their gods. There's not much that'll put the fear in you more than that. You can take my word for it. If it was in my power, and I know it's not, but if it was, I'd find a way to give them the courage to face it. Not because they think there's some god looking out for them, but because they've just got it in them. And after what you've been through, though, I'm sure you got your own ideas. Better make it good.
Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale. Still most comfortable far from cities, he settled in Deerford, which, like many towns in the Deerwood, was beginning the slow process of rebuilding. Believing now that it was the obligation of Kith to be the leaders their gods had not, Adair was soon named mayor of the town, and under his guidance, Deerford soon began to prosper. He expelled the last of the Scanites from the area, and drew new settlers with the offer of land, a trick he had learned from someone he otherwise preferred to forget. With each passing day, Deerford would come to more closely resemble the Gilded Vale of Adair's childhood, the one worthy of its name.